All right. Got it. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Rotary Peace Corps Week 2022. And thank you for joining and thank you for your support. I'm Kim Dixon, and I'm pleased to be president of Partnering for Peace, an organization whose sole goal is to bring awareness of the formal partnership between Rotary and the Peace Corps communities worldwide, and to reach out and to support the ongoing projects of the two organizations. I'll show you, let me see, I'll share a screen. Should do this a little bit more graciously, but today we'll be talking about peace building on the ground. That's the theme of the day. And as you can see from the chart I have up, the mission and the areas of focus of Rotary and Peace Corps are almost exactly the same. So that's where we begin. We find that through a variety of the worldwide peace indexes that show a decline in peace each year, albeit slightly. Of course, the Ukrainian war and also Afghanistan, Yemen, Syria, Russia, and the South Sudan are just a few in conflict. 150 countries have some type of border disputes. Today, we focus on peace building and our theme, peace building on the ground. This, of course, resonates so well with Peace Corps community and with the Rotary community around the world. Specifically, how Rotary and Peace Corps historically have addressed this mission of peace and how we continue that mission. And that's our focus today. With me today, I have 4 distinguished panelists to discuss peace. Peter Kyle, an author and international attorney, hails from New Zealand and has been active in Rotary since 1973 and has too many positions to list, but eventually became a Rotary International Director from 2022. He was also chair of the Rotary Peace Center Committee for 3 years. I know Peter is still viewing the Queen's funeral today, so I appreciate you having your coffee on standby. Peter will highlight the pieces of history and peace building within Rotary, including Rotary's work in developing the UN. Morning, Ana. Thanks for joining. Secondly, Chic Dambach, excuse me, a returned Peace Corps volunteer and Nobel Peace Corps nominee for his peace negotiations in Africa, is President Emeritus of the National Peace Corps Association, former President of Alliance for Peacebuilding, and holds several adjunct faculty university positions, as well as on boards of several organizations, including the Institute of Economics and Peace, which you'll be hearing more about today. Cutter Patel is active with Frontline Defenders, a human rights organization. She is a UN representative for the Rotary Representative Networks, as well as many other organizations, as it turns out. Ana is an RPCV from Dominican Republic, a Rotary Peace Fellow, university professor, author, and peace builder internationally. Keevon Baten will speak about his continued life of service and his timeline, starting with his experience as a Rotary Youth Exchange student in Brazil, then as a Peace Corps volunteer in Vanuatu, and now as president of a Rotaractor club in Western North Carolina. He will share his and Rotaractor's views of working toward peace. I also want to introduce Erica Brulette, who'll be on in a little bit. She is our chair for Peace Corps Week and a board member, RPCV, and 10-year Rotarian, who will wrap up the session with an outline of the activities for the rest of the week. And we have to give a big thank you to Karen Pupor, our board secretary, who also is our technologist and head of communication committee, and lots of outreach this year, which I know has taken her away from her new initiative in career coaching. So I thank you all for participating today. So a few rules. If you would please, everyone is muted except for the speakers. Please, we want your questions. So put them in chat, and then later on we'll bring up all the questions. We expect to be about an hour and a quarter. But if we have lots of questions, we can go on and you can drop off if you'd like or need to. So let's start with some history. If we may, Peter, I'll turn to you and tell us about the history of peace in Rotary.
Well, thank you, Kim, for that very generous and gracious introduction. And may I say what a pleasure it is to be on this call with this distinguished panel and to have an opportunity to partner with the Rotary Peace Fellow Program and also with Peace Corps volunteers partnering for peace. A lot of synergy between these two organizations, and this is a wonderful opportunity to celebrate that synergy and to talk a little bit about both the past and the future. So let me say a few words about peace and Rotary. As you may know, Rotary started in 1905 in Chicago. The focus was on service, but at that time, the forces of nationalism were becoming quite pronounced. Increasingly, Rotary clubs were talking about peace. World War I broke out in 1914. It was a nasty, brutal, terrible war, finished in 1918. And the focus of Rotary then became, what can we do to ensure that we never again suffer the terrible destruction and deaths of World War I? In 1921, at the Edinburgh Convention, Rotary International Convention in Edinburgh, Rotarians passed a resolution calling on Rotarians to advance international understanding, goodwill, and peace. And those words, international understanding, goodwill, and peace, have since become enshrined in our official object. They form the basis of the Rotary Foundation's charitable work around the world. And I'm proud that we are celebrating this year the 100th anniversary of the formal adoption of that resolution. In 1939, nationalism forces again broke out. World War II started, and Rotary became very involved in peacekeeping efforts at that time. In 1940, the International Convention of Rotary was held in Havana, Cuba. At that convention, Rotarians adopted a resolution calling for respect for human rights. That was the first time those words, human rights, had entered into the international lexicon. And they became the basis for the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, signed in 1948, one of the world's most significant international treaties from the last century. In 1942, a number of Rotarians, senior Rotarians, met in London. They were concerned about the impact of the war on education, on scientific research, on cultural traditions and norms and monuments. They adopted a resolution which led to the formation of UNESCO. 2 years later, in 1944, when Prime Minister Churchill rather, and President Truman decided the time had come to form an organization which would forever outlaw war, Rotary was one of the first organizations invited to send lawyers and other representatives to work alongside the delegates from China, the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and the United States. And when the UN Charter was signed in San Francisco in 1945, 49 out of the 800 delegates were Rotarians. So we've had a very strong relationship with the United Nations right from the outset. The relationship continued into the 80s. In 1986, together with UNICEF, the World Health Organization, and the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta, Rotary formed the Global Partnership for the Eradication of Polio. And subsequently, the Gates Foundation joined and other parties joined. So again, Rotary continued its relationship with the United Nations. Towards the end of the last century, Rotary decided to get even more deeply involved in peacekeeping efforts. They formed the Rotary Peace Center program. Rotary partnered with 6 universities around the world, each of which had a renowned reputation for their peace and conflict resolution curriculum. And through that program, which formally, the first cohort ended in 2002, we now have over 1,600 Rotary Peace Fellows around the world, working in all sorts of occupations and fields of study, academic, United Nations, World Bank, and field activities. And we're very proud of the Rotary Peace Center program. And many of the Rotary Peace Fellows were, in fact, Peace Corps volunteers. There's been an association with the Peace Corps for a long time. Rotary has formally entered into a partnership with the Peace Center, with the Peace Corps volunteer program. And we have other partnerships that are significant in the peace arena, including the Institute for Economics and Peace and Mediators Beyond Borders International. In 2010, we formed a Rotary Action Group for Peace. A few years later, we developed a new focus for the Rotary Foundation, and we developed 6 areas of focus, which included peace and conflict resolution. And that has become a core focus of Rotary's activities. Recently, we added environment, so we now have 7 areas of focus. So peace is very much in Rotary's DNA. We have peace conferences, we have peace symposia, we have a peace academy started with the help of the Institute for Economics and Peace. We have all sorts of peace initiatives around the world. Here in the United States, we have a Youth and Peace in Action program in the eastern side of the United States, bringing peace methodology and peace concepts to young people so that they can begin to get an understanding of the importance of peace and conflict resolution in society. So that's just a quick preview of Rotary's long association with peace. I think we make a significant contribution in many parts of the world through our global grants. Peace is an important part of the environment. It's an important focus of the other areas of focus, many of which are similar to those that Kim mentioned, of the Peace Corps volunteer program. Our areas of focus and their areas of focus are somewhat similar to the Millennium Development Goals were first promulgated in 2000 and similar to the SDGs that came on board in 2015. So peace is a very significant part of Rotary's operations, and I'm delighted that we have an opportunity today to celebrate our relationship with the Peace Corps volunteer program and partnering with peace. So with that brief history, Kim, may I pass it back to you?
Thank you, Peter. That's great. Next, we'd like to talk about the history of Peace Corps and peace, a little bit of the founding. And I just want to double check. Thank you, Ana. Ana is standing on a wall at the UN, and she's in the middle of a UN session. Ana, can you hold on a little bit longer, and then we'll have you on, and then you can drop after your talk?
Yes.
That'd be fine. Okay, let's go with Chick, and then we'll have Ana come up. Thank you.
My turn. All right. It's a real honor and pleasure to be here. Anytime I get to do anything with Peter Kyle, I'm always honored and especially pleased. He's just one of my absolute heroes. So Peter, great to see you. Great to be out here with you. And the rest of you as well. But you know, Peter and I go back quite a bit, and just have great admiration for him and all that he does at the World Bank and with Rotary and everything else. My task is to talk a bit about the Peace Corps and Peace Corps and peace. And, you know, can start off, of course, I think almost everybody on this call is familiar with the Peace Corps. Don't need to go into great detail on that. You know, we had our 60th anniversary a year ago. And of course, that came at a very difficult time for the Peace Corps with the COVID. They had to evacuate all of the Peace Corps volunteers. They're now gradually getting back overseas, but a rather trying time for the Peace Corps. But the concept of the Peace Corps and peace has been an interesting one over the years. It was the founding purpose of the Peace Corps was world peace and friendship. And the method of achieving that purpose is identified in the 3 goals people in the Peace Corps are familiar with. The first one, providing assistance, human capital, people with skills and things that they can help other people develop and benefit from. So that's the first goal, providing help for development and support around the world. Second goal is providing a positive image of Americans around the world. But the third goal is to help Americans better understand people around the world, which is probably the greatest challenge of all of them. We refer to it as the third goal, and it is what returned Peace Corps volunteers do. The Peace Corps itself, I think, Kim, are you going to put up the slide about the Peace Corps in its the things it does, health, education, youth, agriculture, and so on? Those are the kinds of projects that the Peace Corps does around where the Peace Corps volunteers do around the world. But the thing I like to focus on is the third goal. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, there's the slide with the areas of focus for Peace Corps volunteers working overseas: education, health, agriculture, environment, and so on. But as far as I'm concerned, the greatest value of the Peace Corps is not what we're able to do during those 2 years of service overseas, as good and valuable as that is. We do some awfully good stuff. We mess up a lot too, but we do some awfully good stuff. But we come back, most of us come back in our 20s, early 30s. We have a whole life and a whole career ahead of us that is shaped, and the values are shaped and skills are shaped so much by that Peace Corps experience. And so the ability of returned Peace Corps volunteers to continue to have a positive impact on humanity, and particularly on peace, I think is the greatest value that the Peace Corps has. So I have been preaching this. I became president of the National Peace Corps Association 30 years ago, and have been preaching this gospel ever since. And I think with some success, I would like to think. There's one other thing, by the way, that developed as a result of the pandemic and the people coming back, is we took advantage of that as an opportunity to reassess where the Peace Corps is and where it's going. During the 60th anniversary of the Peace Corps, we had no volunteers serving overseas. So we went through a process of holding town halls and a large symposium to say, okay, what have we done and where do we need to go now in the future for the Peace Corps? We call it Peace Corps Connect to the Future. And the final report will come out this week from that 2-year-long initiative. But among the things that came out of it, one of them was you need to do a better job with regard to diversity. Certainly technology has become now a part of what the Peace Corps does. Technology had nothing to do with the Peace Corps when I was serving 60 years ago, but it is now a very important part of it, an important tool that Peace Corps volunteers can use, and the Peace Corps is catching up on that and developing it. But the other is the relationship between the Peace Corps and the returned Peace Corps volunteer community, to strengthen that relationship and put greater and greater emphasis on what the 250,000 people who served in the Peace Corps can do going forward. And as far as I'm concerned, a big part of that is what it can do to advance the concept of peace. Now, something that the Peace Corps itself does not do with regard to world peace is mediate and negotiate peace resolutions. The Peace Corps, for obvious reasons, the Peace Corps itself doesn't get involved with that overseas. It needs to stay out of political stuff that would complicate the ability of volunteers to work. But returned Peace Corps volunteers can and do get involved with that. I had the privilege 20 years ago of getting directly involved in negotiations for an end to the Ethiopia-Eritrea border war. Congressman John Garamendi and I worked together on it. We had a team of 5, and at the end of the day, we were given credit by the heads of state of the 2 countries involved for creating the spirit and the momentum. That was their term, the spirit and the momentum that made the peace agreement possible. We were invited to the peace training ceremony in Algiers and were recognized there The heads of state invited us to their hotel suites afterwards for a lengthy discussion about what can be done to follow up on it. Did something similar with regard to the Congo. Returned Peace Corps volunteers working with the rebel groups and with the Kabila government, who leading up to the inter-Congolese dialogue, leading to a coalition government and so on. That was returned Peace Corps volunteers directly involved in what we call peacemaking. But peace building is a broader concept that all of us in one way or another can be involved with. And that's something that Ana is particularly directly involved with. And it's what Rotary does, falls into the category of what we call peace building. I had the privilege of leading the Alliance for Peace Building for several years, and I think I hope we were successful in advancing that whole concept. That peace building is what anybody, anywhere can be involved with. It's putting in place the systems and structures and building the attitude that enable societies to function peacefully. And the Institute for Economics and Peace, which Kim referred to, has done extraordinarily important work in this regard. The Institute for Economics and Peace, created by an Australian next door to New Zealand, right, Peter? Institute for Economics and Peace comes out of Sydney, Australia. A guy named Steve Killalay created the Institute for Economics and Peace to, first of all, create a global peace index to rank the countries of the world based on their peacefulness, and then to better understand the qualities and characteristics of the most peaceful countries in the world. And this is really, really important. Historically, we've looked at issues of war and peace with regard to what causes the violence. And that's important for us to know and understand what causes the violence. But Steve wanted to know what causes peace. And the fact of the matter is, while we think of the world as being a terribly violent place, the fact is most of the world is in peace. And it's getting more, and has been getting more peaceful decade after decade for a long, long time. How does that come about? And that's what we're studying and better understanding through the Institute for Economics and Peace, and many others, of course, are doing it as well. But it's looking at the attitudes and the structures and the institutions that enable societies to live peacefully. And the reports from the IEP help all of us identify those things. And when working with people, either in communities or anywhere in the world, we can we can indicate that certainly people want to live in peace. I've given lectures all over the world, dozens and dozens and dozens. I always ask the audience, how many of you would rather live in a society at war compared with a society at peace? And of course, it's unanimous. It's every time, no matter where you are, including, by the way, at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. It's unanimous. I'd rather live in a world of peace. Okay, if everybody would rather live in a world of peace, and if we're beginning to understand how peaceful societies function, why not? Why not put forth a major effort to make it possible for more and more of the world to live at peace? And that's what we're doing. It's what Rotary is doing, and it's what the peace building community is doing. Better understanding the dynamics of peace, the systems and structures and the attitudes that enable societies to live peacefully, and build on that. I still do a lot of work in less developed countries that are struggling with violence, and basically say, you know, wouldn't you rather be at peace? And you would be more prosperous if you were to be at peace. You've got to have a peaceful, stable, and secure environment for the rest of the social, political, and economic development things you want to see happen in your country. But the foundation for it is a safe, peaceful society. And if you can build that, then you can do all the other things. But without it, it's awfully tough to do any of the other things. So we're through the Institute for Economics and Peace and the many other academicians and others who are studying the whole concept of how we build more peaceful societies. We're developing an understanding of that far, far beyond anything we ever had before. You know, when I went to school 50 years ago, you could not study this kind of thing because it did not exist. Did not exist. If I had wanted a major in peace, or to even take a single class, I couldn't take one class in peace at my university. And in fact, you couldn't do that anywhere in the world. Did not exist. now we have dozens of schools all over the world that teach us. You can get a major in it, you can get a bachelor's degree, you can get a master's degree, you can get a PhD in peace studies. Phenomenal
And you're
progress.
teaching those, Chick.
But you bet.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
pardon me, I get excited about this stuff, but I really think it's a phenomenal development that we're doing that. And Rotary has been an extremely important part of that. So, I go on and on and on, and I could much longer, but I think you get the point that Peace Corps, Rotary, working together, Institute for Economics and Peace, and so on. The Peace Academy, you can take courses through the Institute for Economics and Peace. And the good news is that we're making progress. There are setbacks, Russia, Ukraine, of course, and we're too often overlook the conflicts that develop in other parts of the world. But we're doing a pretty darn good job of making the world more peaceful, and we just need to stick to it and continue to make progress. So that'll do for my comments. I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
thank you, Chick, and thank you for your passion. Ana, tell us what's going on at the UN and what you've been working on. It sounds like exciting work.
Hi, so yes, my name is Ana Cutter Patel, and I am sitting right now across the street from the United Nations building. This is the first day of the UN General Assembly, wherein member countries, representatives of countries, heads of states from around the world come and gather once a year. And not only is there the main agenda, which is usually just reserved for state representatives, country representatives, but hundreds of side events, which is mostly what I'm involved in, from different kinds of organizations, non-for-profits, the civil society organizations coming together often with country representatives and talking about big issues. So I have, I think, two enduring professional affiliations and sort of identities. And one is as a returned Peace Corps volunteer. In the early 90s, I was a Peace Corps volunteer in the Dominican Republic. And that experience really shaped and formed, I believe, the rest of my life, and a commitment to both service and a deep curiosity about the world and a love of different languages and dances and food that has continued to be lifelong. I think I feel like I spent the first sort of 15 years after that always meeting and finding Peace Corps volunteers in the strangest places, at dinner parties, but also in different parts of the world and on airplanes. And now I found another home, which is actually a way for Peace Corps volunteers, I think, in many ways, to find communities that are also deeply curious and committed to global cooperation and to understanding others, and that is Rotary. In 2016, because of Peter Kyle, I always like to say that because it truly was he who urged me forward, I became a Rotary Peace Fellow by joining their one of their professional development certificate program at the University of Chulalongkorn in Bangkok, Thailand. And I think since the Peace Corps, that was my most international and global learning experience. And I have a master's degree in international affairs, but still, this was the experience with, it was 22 different fellows from around the world. I was one of 2 Americans, and both of us were returned Peace Corps volunteers. So again, you see that the connection is very strong, I think, between Rotary and the Peace Corps. There are 8 locations where Rotary offers these, connects with universities. So there are host universities or educational institutes that offer these programs. I did the professional certification, but there are also full master's programs that Rotary funds around the world. It's become a highly competitive program, so good thing I got in early, but it's an extraordinary opportunity to do this. And you see here the list of locations. And also, I think the exciting news is that Rotary is in the process now of choosing a new Peace Center location in the Middle East. So that's really exciting. The Rotary Peace Fellows do have an alumni association as well, where we're trying to do things, for example, is continue to come together around the issues that we care about deeply. That's everything from environment to human rights to business and human rights to peace, all under the umbrella of peace. And so there is a place for fellows to go and continue to connect after that. Being a Rotary Peace Fellow led me, of course, into being a Rotarian. I'm part of the Washington Global Rotary Club in Washington, D.C. Part of the reason why I joined that club is because it has the highest number of Rotary Peace Fellows. And so you have there some people who have some shared experience and community through that experience. Peter then also asked me to step up my game in another way, which is to become one of Rotary's unofficial, or official, as we can say, diplomats. So Rotary has a system of Rotarians who actually offer service and spend time in, I'm actually looking for my little sheet here, who spend time as representatives to multilateral organizations in the UN. Rotary has representatives at the World Health Organization, at the Organization for American States, at UNICEF, at the UN, at UN Women, at the Commonwealth of Europe, any number of multilateral, including, I think, the World Bank. I'll have to think of some more names, but pretty much a huge number of multilateral organizations around the world. And we both represent Rotary's interests in those organizations, as well as bring back the work of those organizations to the Rotary community in a variety of ways. I have the great honor of being the first Rotary representative to UN Women, which is the United Nations entity focusing on gender equality and women's empowerment. So that's a really exciting opportunity for me and for others. Just one last thing, which is to talk about ways in which Kim asked me to think about ways in which Rotary and Peace Corps can continue to connect with each other. And I think what's really interesting is you have Rotary clubs all over the world who have wonderful speakers programs. I know I get to hear a variety of extraordinary speakers through my Rotary club, and finding the Peace Corps volunteers that are nearby, interactions between the Rotary Peace Fellows and returned Peace Corps volunteers who are in your community, in your locale, in your city is one way just to continue to learn. You have Peace Corps volunteers who've lived for 2.5 or more years in a country situation, some of them very critical to what's happening in the world today. And it's an opportunity for Rotarians to hear more about that place. I think there are also opportunities for returned Peace Corps volunteers to be a part of peace projects in communities and peace conferences. On the Rotary side, Rotary clubs can become Rotary Peacebuilding clubs. They do that through their through the RAP, through the Rotary Action Group for Peace. There's actually criteria for how to become a Rotary Peacebuilding club. I think that's an important first step at the club level. And then, of course, there's also the foundation, I guess, at the highest level, which Peter alluded to, but where the Rotary Foundation is actually supporting big, really interesting, ambitious peace projects around the world. So that's just a few things to mention about some of the interactions between the Peace Corps and in Rotary, and opportunities for Rotarians to get more involved in the peace agenda. My friend Al Jubitz, who is a huge actor in this world, he often talks about, what if we didn't think of ourselves as Rotarians as just people of action and separate clubs, but as a global peace building force? Because this is truly an extraordinary organization that can harness people power in all parts of the world. I'm sitting at the UN, but Rotary is actually represented in more countries than the United Nations. And so I see here constantly an opportunity and a force for good that we need to we need to inspire, and we need to continue to challenge to move forward. I'm so sorry I can't stay for the rest of the discussion. I'm happy to have Kim share my email. I need to get back in. In fact, Chick, the person who's speaking now is Uzra, who was also head of the Alliance for Peacebuilding and is now head of the Democracy, Labor, and Human Rights Bureau at the State Department. So I have to get back in there. I really appreciate your listening, and happy to take any questions or comments via email. And Kim, please share my email. Thanks so much.
I will. Thank you so much for fitting us in, and do good work. Do continue to do good work. Thank you, Ana. Wow, that's great. That's great. And now let's shift gears a little bit. And I will put Ana's email up. Let's shift gears a little bit. Keevon really has a different perspective, and I appreciate you coming on today. I know it's difficult to follow Ana. Hanging out at the UN. But I think that none of us on the panel have the experience of, starting Rotary as an exchange student and then going forward. So tell us a little bit about your experience and your thoughts on peace and peace within the Rotaractors and going forward.
Yeah, so like Kim mentioned, I started with Rotary in 2011 as a Rotary Youth Exchange volunteer. I was introduced to the program through a counselor who had some connections at Rotary, and she recommended that I give it a try, and I did. And so I spent a year in the south of Brazil in Florianopolis, and was really exposed to, at that time, just a totally different horizon and a gambit of things. It was my first time ever being on a plane, so took a 20-hour flight and 3 connections to get to my location, being introduced to a whole new world, different language, different cultures, foods, you name it, everything that you can think of. And a lot of that was new for myself, but not only for myself, but my family. And kind of in the same way that Peace Corps' goal is to educate Americans about other cultures, and to also educate ourselves about other cultures. I was kind of fulfilling that role. So upon returning, and it was great even to, have Facebook posts and have some of my friends back here in America who had never experienced another country, or and might not ever get to experience another country, kind of be introduced to that topic, and just for it to open up my own kind of horizons, but to plant a seed in opening up the horizons of people in my community. It was a great experience. And after that, I felt forever indebted to Rotary, and just wanted to also express my gratitude. I think debt is not a great word, but gratitude. Gratitude is a really great word. So upon returning back home from the Peace Corps, from my Rotary Youth Exchange, I went to college. And then after college, I went to the Peace Corps. And again, it was just that exposure to a different culture. Great to share that with the host country nationals, but also great to share that with my community back home. And I think upon returning home, I started a Rotaractor club, and I am the president of the Rotaractor club here in Asheville. And as I was thinking about how great it was to be a part of the Rotaractor Club and how lucky I was to find it, I was finding that a lot of the other Peace Corps volunteers were having a little bit of difficulty transitioning back into American culture. Mm-hmm. They weren't in, I guess, community with, or found it difficult to find community with people who had their same kind of perspective and their same kind of desire to help out the world. And my thought process was just like, oh my gosh, I feel so lucky to have found Rotaract. I wish that other returned Peace Corps volunteers could find Rotaract or Rotary. And so what we did was, I've been working closely with Kim and a couple of others at the National Office of the Peace Corps. I think Ted was on here just recently. And we were looking at putting together a peace pipeline. So finding that, again, Rotary and the Peace Corps have some overlapping goals and interests, and even affiliate groups, which I'll talk a little bit about later. And so if we can help to build peacemakers around the world and as early as high school. Rotary has a program for high school students that is a community service-based program in high school. And so if we can start there, introduce people to, or introduce those high schoolers to the process of building peace in the world, and we can transition them through the, Rotaract at their university or at the community level, being a Peace Corps volunteer or Peace Corps response volunteer, and then, transitioning to being an RPCV for life. All of these things kind of overlap. And the best thing about it is we build people who are even more equipped to impact and create peace in their communities through all these different overlaps and joining different clubs at different times. And it also makes the programs themselves a lot stronger. And so I think it's one of those kind of cycles that can build upon itself in achievement of the goal that it's looking to achieve. So yeah, I that was kind of my contribution to partnering, and then found Partnering for Peace as an organization that kind of does just that. It's a group of Rotarians and Peace Corps volunteers, and so who better to understand the potential impact or the potential success that this could have, other than people who are have been a part of both organizations. Yeah, and I think we talked a little bit about the affiliate groups, but I can touch on it again. The affiliate groups also are kind of specialized groups within Rotary and the Peace Corps with special focuses. I'm a part of myself, the Rotaract, not Rotaract, but the Rotary International Action Group for Community Economic Development. But there are also some overlapping affiliate groups even within the National Peace Corps Association affiliate groups and Rotary International Action Groups, or RAGs. And so I think it would be great if someone is looking to get involved, if someone's a Rotarian looking to get involved in the Peace Corps, they could look at some of those Peace Corps affiliate groups that might specifically interest them, or even vice versa. If you're a returned Peace Corps volunteer and looking to get involved in Rotary, not only reaching out to your local Rotary group, but also getting involved in those action groups to kind of specifically service your need. And the Peace Corps action groups are kind of, I guess they have kind of three separate groups for how they can form. So there's geographic affiliates. So I'm also part of the Friends of Vanuatu group, which is where I did my Peace Corps service. There's country or service affiliates, and then there's cause related affiliates. And the same kind of goes for Rotary International groups, but they're more cause related affiliates, I'd say.
Great. Good, thank you. Thank you, perfect. I'll stop sharing here. And one other thing I think that people find interesting is the peace clubs. And I noticed there's several people on the call from the peace clubs. And a lot of returned Peace Corps volunteers are in these clubs. I think there's several dozen. Peter, maybe you could fill us in a little bit more on the details of the Rotary Peace Clubs, how they're developing and et cetera.
Sure, happy to do so, Kim. There are many Rotary Peace Clubs around the world. There are many Rotary Peace Districts. Increasingly, Rotary is seeking to have, as one of the officers in a Rotary Club, someone who has responsibility for promoting peace in the community, peace officers. Peace is such an important dimension for Rotary. We have our 7 areas of focus, but peace underlies all of them. And as I tried to explain earlier on, peace is very much in Rotary's DNA. We are the largest peace-building, community-based organization in the world. We have a lot to contribute. And as the world becomes, it seems, ever more polarized, there's more and more need, I think, for organizations such as the Peace Corps Volunteer Program and for Rotary to come together and find ways in which we can collaborate to build more peaceful societies everywhere where we operate. So a big focus on promoting peace clubs and peace districts throughout Rotary.
Mhm. Thank you, Peter. You know, and as I think the newest Rotarian here, I really joined after I came back from the Peace Corps in 2016. I went to my first International Rotary Convention, and I was just amazed at not only the you know, the clubs and all the support and all the commitment to areas which affect peace, human trafficking, etc. But also just the fellowships, you know, that really support peace building, you know, from tennis to wine tasting to everything. I mean, it had quite an effect on me. So did anyone else want to comment on the clubs or the joint interaction there? I had a comment. Peter, you said that it was 1948 when human rights entered the vocabulary.
Yes.
And it was the 21st century when women's rights are human rights entered into the lexicon.
Right.
It's kind of
Yes, we're a bit slow in that respect, but we're moving in the right direction.
And I think that's a better focus for peace as well. Yeah. So let me ask you a couple key questions that I know is on everyone's mind, and then Karen and Erica are collecting questions. If anyone wants to put some in the chat, please. What can we do? You know, we can't all be you know, running around the world negotiating peace treaties, or even at the UN participating there. But what can we do as individuals or within our own groups? What do you feel we can be doing to promote peace going forward? Any of you,
Well,
all of you.
I'd be happy to start that discussion, because that question comes up all the time with Rotarians. What can I, as an individual Rotarian, do to promote peace, either locally, nationally, or globally? And a partial response is that as a side benefit from Rotary's partnership with the Institute for Economics and Peace, we have developed the Peace Academy. You can go online and complete a 3-hour course and become a certified peace builder. And as part of that, there are all sorts of suggestions on ways in which individuals, clubs, districts can engage in peace activities. We tend to think sometimes that peace means the Middle East or other sort of major disputes, but we need peace in local communities. There are all sorts of opportunities for clubs, for organizations at the local level to engage in peace. So I would encourage you to, and perhaps someone can put the website for the Rotary Peace Academy on the chat box. That, I think, is a very practical suggestion for people who would like to get more involved, have a more hands-on approach to peace building.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Chick, do you have any comments?
Just really pleased with all of this. It would encourage people to look into the Peace Academy. There are things you can learn there, and it does have suggestions for things that people can do to get involved. To me, one of the most important things we can do is just in our conversations with our friends and neighbors, if you're playing bridge or whatever, building an attitude about peace and the concept of peace, and the fact that it can be done, that there has been dramatic progress over the years, and that it can be done. Building a culture, what we refer to as a culture of peace here in the United States, as well as around the world. And that happens as we're carrying on conversation with our friends and neighbors and helping people better understand the importance of it, and the fact that things are being done and things can be done, and that a more peaceful society is in everyone's benefit. The old notion that war is good for the economy is absolute nonsense. We've, I think, finally learned that lesson, but developing the political will to build a more peaceful country and a more peaceful society, I think is something all of us can do just in our day-to-day lives and in our communication with friends and neighbors.
Good. Keevon, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, that's always a very difficult question. The kind of how I've sought to answer that question is community service, being involved with other groups who support peace. Yeah, and also I think what I learned from my Rotary Youth Exchange and both my Peace Corps experience was through connecting with people in different cultures. It really kind of brings to light just how all common we are, and how we all have the same desires. I mean, essentially to love and to be loved and to feel important and to be made to feel important. So I think that has really impacted my outlook on peace and feeling like it is possible and feeling like I can talk to people, and if they feel like there's this us versus them kind of viewpoint, helping people to realize, hey, at the end of the day, we all have the same desires. We might have different methods for getting there, but these are all coming from the same place. And sometimes the path to get there isn't always the best, but the desire is the same. So
Yeah, well said. Well said. Thank you. Thank you. Let's hear from our audience. So we got some questions. Erica, were you queuing up some questions? Or Karen?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Karen. I serve on the board with Rotary for Peace, and I'm your chat moderator today. There's a couple questions. It's a lot about how do Rotarians connect with Peace Corps? So there's multiple levels of this, both in terms of outreach to identify who are RPCV Rotarians who are serving both of those roles. How do we find them, or how do we identify who more folks who are both Rotarians and RPCVs? There's several ideas asking about utilizing district conferences, being on agendas, getting in newsletters. Like, how can we do that? I think that's maybe just one question, and then we can go to the next part of connecting with Peace Corps.
Chick, maybe you can answer that with the NPCA resources.
Well, call Steve Werner. Right?
He is our go-to, and Steve is on the call today.
Steve is on the call. So whenever I think about Peace and Peace Corps and Rotary, I think about Steve Werner, because he's just been the advocate for a long, long time. But I think through there are a couple of networks, the National Peace Corps Association being the national network of the Peace Corps community, and then within it, contact with a local Peace Corps, Return Peace Corps volunteer community. You connect with that, be it in Chicago or Northern California or here in Washington or wherever. There are local Peace Corps groups almost everywhere. So you can connect with them, and they can tell you who within those. I think increasingly the people in those clubs have been identifying themselves with both Rotary and with the Peace Corps. And I think partly because of what you're doing, Kim and Peter, and what you're in, and Steve, and what the rest of you are doing, you're encouraging people who have that dual identity to let it be known that you have that dual identity, and that you are advocates for both Rotary and for the Peace Corps, and for doing what we can to build peace. So I'd say the best way to connect, either if you're a Return Peace Corps volunteer, you want to connect with Rotary, find your local Rotary club, connect with them. If you're Rotary, find your local Return Peace Corps volunteer organization and connect with them, and then the rest of the links can take place.
Yeah, thank you, Chick. And just in more detail, just go in, if you're a RPCV or a PCV, just go in and Google find a Rotary club, and there's a tool that you just put in your zip code or the city or the country that you're looking for, and every Rotary Club there will pop up with their website and their phone number and their emails. So that's the real easy way to get to the Rotary side. For the return Peace Corps volunteers, probably the best way, besides calling Steve Werner and Charlie Hunt and Wick Rolland, who are all on the call and all original members of the founding board of Partnering for Peace. So I have to tip my hat to all of you guys. If you go to National Peace Corps or peacecorpsconnect.org is the website, peacecorpsconnect.org, you can go to the affiliate groups, and they're organized by location in the US or abroad, the country of service. So, friends of Vanuatu, et cetera, or cause-based. And that was the chart that I shared that has a lot of cause-based ones and several in concert with the Rotary RAGs, as they're called. But you can go on there and just search by an affiliate group and send a note out to them. For example, I'm looking for someone in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, to give a talk at a Rotary Club. So if any of you live there or know of an RPCV that's over there, I need one desperately, so let me know. But that's a great way to connect one another. I'm also looking for a Rotarian in New York City desperately, so send me an email. I'm always at info@partneringforpeace.org. What other questions have we got, Karen?
So along those same lines, and I'll drop some links in the chat in a few moments. And if you haven't been paying attention to chat, definitely check it out. There's a lot of good stuff. Bill Miller shared some excellent links. Ani shared the Positive Peace Academy. We've got a lot going on in there. So thanks everybody for sharing. If we've talked a lot about returned Peace Corps volunteers. There's a question looking for some suggestions for how also to connect with currently serving Peace Corps volunteers who are in the field around projects or internet, I guess in an international context.
Now that's really a question for Ted Adams, but I think I can answer it. And Ted, you can, we can connect. We'll unmute you if we can, but Ted will tell you, as we all know, as Peace Corps volunteers, that privacy and security concerns are very important in the Peace Corps. So we don't publicize where people are located or their contact information. So if you, for example, if you're a Rotarian and you have a project in the country of Georgia, write the country director in Georgia, and that is on the Peace Corps website. And tell him currently, Stephen, or Gregory, I'm sorry, what your project is and where it's located. And then he could reach out to a volunteer if there's one in that area and say, hey, would you like to get in touch with so-and-so and support them? So that might be one way to do it, but they are, and we all know the reason for that protection. So I encourage people to go to the country director. They have a staff that can mine those emails. Ted, did you want to say anything? And I'd like to introduce Ted Adams, who's our liaison with Peace Corps, and Carrie Golden, who is our liaison with Rotary International. And we thank them both for all their time and dedication to this partnership. Remember, the partnership is between Rotary and Peace Corps, and Partnering for Peace, we're just kind of sitting in the middle trying to help everybody out.
Great, Kim, thanks so much. And wow, what a panel. I'm going to absolutely steal the peace pipeline concept, Keevon. It so encapsulates what it's all about in terms of connecting the dots and along this continuum of Rotary ambassadors to Rotary scholars to Peace Corps recruits to return Peace Corps volunteers and everything in between. So I do think a great funnel into this work is through partnership, Partnering for Peace. They also have some of the resources that we've developed, that Carrie and I and Peace Corps and Rotary International have developed. There's a guidance document, for example, that includes dozens of ways, both that Rotarians have engaged in the field with posts, but also kind of start some suggestions for how to get started. And there's a number of ways, clubs can invite, there's a speakers bureau, for example, where a club in the US could bring a volunteer into their club to present through their the Speakers Bureau program or the Worldwide Schools program. There are the Peace Corps Partnership Program allows volunteers, current volunteers, to post projects that they're working on, and Rotary clubs can find a project on the Peace Corps website. Those will be going up as we get our volunteers back into the field, of which we have 500 currently of the 7,000. So we're ramping back up. And then, I think some of those documents that help connect the dots to post directly, and both Partnering for Peace and Rotary International and Peace Corps can help connect the dots if it gets that, if you're having trouble. Carrie, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, that's great. And thank you all so much for joining. Congratulations. And thank you to PFP for really doing a lot of bringing people together in a way that both Rotary International and Peace Corps, we are so grateful that Partnering for Peace can help us put some pieces together and bring people together in this way. One thing that I wanted to just highlight for everyone, which I think we've all captured, but maybe not said out loud, is that just as there is the peace pipeline, I think of Rotary International and Peace Corps really sharing a service pipeline. And I think that kind of is the crux of, we care about peace, but we care equally about doing service and the volunteering that we can do in our local communities, and really being able to identify what local community needs are is what sets us up for collaborations that lead to, service projects that make a difference in the local communities, and also bring about the same things that we care about in terms of understanding different cultures and sharing that and enjoying that. And I think that I hope people feel encouraged to think beyond ways to connect of clubs. We've heard about Rotary action groups and of course the fellows, and there are currently serving volunteers, but also I encourage people to think about Peace Corps offices and various ways that we can collaborate beyond what might seem like the most in our face ways to collaborate. So thank you all so much for joining us, and Ted and I will host our office hours later this week. So please join. We'd love to think through ideas or connections that we might be able to help you with.
Carrie, if you'd like to put that on the chat, you and Ted, about the office hours on Thursday, you can get a little advertisement in there. There was one question about the part of the reason that we have the Peace Corps, Rotary Peace Corps Week this week is because Wednesday is International Peace Day at the UN. And we're wondering what Rotary might be doing on Wednesday. Peter, maybe you might know, or Carrie, you might know if there's anything.
I don't know what Rotary International itself is doing. Normally there'd be some sort of announcement from headquarters in Evanston, but I think around the Rotary world, individual clubs will be quite active in celebrating International Peace Day. And that's an important date within the Rotary calendar. It may be a project, it may be a seminar, it may be a training. There are all sorts of quite innovative ways that Rotary clubs celebrate International Peace Day. I think if you go onto the Rotary website, rotary.org, you'll probably get a lot of information about what clubs are doing in different parts of the world. But I don't think Rotary International itself has a particular event scheduled. I'll check on that, Kim, and by the time we meet again on Wednesday, I'll have an answer for you.
Well, thank you. And I'll just reinforce that, it really is a local thing. Alan Kuzunoki, who is one of our active members, and thank you, I think Alan might be on the call, he shared how in Hawaii, they're putting up peace poles in several locations, which is going to be really special. So a lot of things. And I'll also echo Erica, our chair, her comments about, everything we do, every service that we do is really going toward peace. Every service opportunity, everything, putting in peace pools, all of that is just reminding us to focus on peace. So I think we had a time for maybe one or two more questions. Karen?
Sure. I wanted to point out, Charlie Hunt dropped in the chat, one way to consider to partner with Rotary and Return Peace Corps volunteers is starting a satellite group for Return Peace Corps volunteers. So he dropped his email in the chat if you're interested in that, but I know his club had a lot of success starting a satellite club with RPCVs. Another question, it was mentioned earlier, Kim, you had said that women's rights are human rights has been more recently added to the conversation. And somebody asked if, Carolyn asked, are there any other Rotarians concerned about women and healthcare, particularly here in the US? So I don't know if there are maybe action groups that she could be referred to.
Well, I'm happy to attempt that last question. Yes, as Kim mentioned, in addition to Rotary clubs, Rotary has around 30 what we call action groups. These are groups of Rotarians who have an interest in a particular cause. It may be the environment, it may be maternal health, it may be disaster relief, it may be polio, it may be tuberculosis, malaria. So in addition to their Rotary connection, they meet on a regular basis to promote that particular cause. In addition to the action groups, we have well over 100 fellowships. These are for Rotarians who have an interest in windsurfing or bowls or tennis or needlework or you name it. There's a fellowship for you in Rotary. And I think that's the great thing about Rotary over the years. It's become very flexible, very informal. It used to be that we would meet once a week. Now the membership requirements have been relaxed, the attendance requirements have been relaxed. But the focus increasingly is what can we do to help humanity? We've become such a polarized world. And I think Rotarians are well placed to help bridge some of the partisan divide that we see in communities. And I think one way to do this is working with Peace Corps volunteers. I don't know whether there's a mechanism for a Peace Corps volunteer to link up with Rotary clubs in the countries where they're doing their service. If there isn't, there should be, because I think that would be a nice connection. And I think that would be a mutually beneficial connection. Just in terms of identifying links with Rotarians, there are 37,000 plus Rotary clubs around the world. As Ana said, there are more Rotary members than there are in the UN. And it's not usually very difficult to find a local Rotary club in your town or your city. Rotarians aren't always the best in responding to questions. If at first you don't succeed, try again, because sooner or later you'll find someone who will be helpful and will direct you either to Rotary headquarters or to someone else in the community who is in a position to assist with developing a relationship between a Peace Corps volunteer and Rotary. And if there's anything that I can do or that Rotary International can do to facilitate connections, please don't hesitate to reach out. Kim has my coordinates. Steve Werner certainly has my coordinates.
Thank you, Peter. So my Rotary story in the Peace Corps is pretty simple. It wasn't a big money thing. It wasn't a big grant opportunity. It was just getting together. I reached out to the Rotary Club in the capital of the country of Georgia, Tbilisi, for two reasons. I wanted to see what they had going on. And secondly, it was the only place to get protein. in my village. So I had an excuse, which you always need to leave your village in Peace Corps. So I had an excuse to go to a Rotary meeting, and we partnered on several things. The needs that they had that I took to our country director and volunteers assisted with, health fairs and things. And then they helped me with translations and distribution of pregnancy pamphlets. And several other things. And we still are doing joint projects. When I found out about the disaster response grants, that anybody in the world can get them now for Ukrainian refugees, I reached out to my Tbilisi Rotary Club, and they've just received a disaster response grant for the Ukrainian refugees in Georgia. So it's a lifelong thing. Keevon, I don't know, did you reach out to Rotary while you were in Vanuatu, or
Yes,
little islands?
I did, and attempted to go to one of their meetings. I think I think Vanuatu is so relaxed that who knows when the meetings could have been, or so I wasn't able to connect with them. But island time is a real thing, and so I don't know if that ever when or where or how often they were meeting.
I want to go there. Okay, well, I think we have time for one last question. I think Karen said there's one more.
Yeah, I think Ellen Young, Partnering for Peace member, has a question.
Yes, I do have an observation. I've been listening and watching you all, and I do have a suggestion on how to engage your new future Peace Corps volunteers. And that is to see whether there's a way for us, and Kim knows this, of course, see if there's a way for us to introduce them to a Rotary Club before they leave for service. Because if they have a connection with their local community, and they have a connection and they know what Rotary is, then when they go into their country of service, they will know what to do, what to ask for, and what to do with that local Rotary club in country. And it also might help if we think about perhaps giving them some token, either a Rotary pin or some knowledge that Rotary is all about making those dreams, those new projects happen. And it can start as small as a little library in a village, and grow to something much, much more impactful. So that's my comment.
Good point. And we're actually working with Ted on that to try to get a little bit more visibility to support those Peace Corps volunteers before they go in.
Right.
I'm going to drop some emails in the chat. I put Anna's in there. And I think if it's all right, we're about out of time here. I'd like to turn it over to Erica. Are you still with us?
I'm here, yes. Hello, everyone. I joined a bit late, but I've been listening, I promise. And wow, what an amazing session this was, right? We heard some fascinating comments from our speakers. What I remember most poignantly is Anna said something about a global peace-building force. That's really awesome. And I think that would kind of align with Keevon's message of a peace pipeline. To me, it seems, it makes sense, a pipeline to build a global peace building force. So really inspirational. Thank you to the speakers again, a big for your time today. I know Anna had to leave and we really were just squeezing this in with everything. I know, Peter, you had something else. So thank you. And for our attendees, thank you for joining the session. I hope you all were equally as inspired. So looking ahead, tomorrow, we're asking everyone to add your voice to the discussion of what Rotary Peace Corps Week's theme means to you on Partnering for Peace's social media platforms. That's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Again, the theme is peace building on the ground. So be sure to add your voice and be sure to tune into our other sessions that we have planned for this week. So Carrie already put some snippets in there. She got ahead of me. So on Wednesday, we'll have a session called Strategies for Designing a Rotary Peace Corps Partnership Project. Partnering for Peace members provide critical details of successful projects, where we'll feature projects that demonstrate the design of a joint Rotary Peace Corps Partnership Project, a joint project. So this is an important session on September 21st, which, as you know, is International Peace Day. So we thought it was most appropriate. And then on Thursday, as already mentioned, our Rotary and Peace Corps liaisons, Carrie Golden and Ted Adams, respectively, will be available live to answer any questions you have and address any general comments you'd like them to hear. So this is dedicated time, and we just encourage you to take advantage of this. They're busy people and they are giving you this time. So please, if you have anything you're concerned about, please use this time, and comments, anything. I know they would be very much appreciated to hear from you. And then on Friday, it's full of informational sessions and then a cultural happy hour. So perhaps you'd like to continue your service with the Peace Corps. Join the From Rotary to Peace Corps Continuing Your Legacy of Service session. Or perhaps you're interested in applying to become a Rotary Peace Fellow. After we just heard our speakers, a very big yes, right? So join in on the session called Deepen Your Impact, Become a Rotary Peace Fellow. And then finally, we wrap up this exciting week with a virtual cultural happy hour. We'd love to have you join us. You'll hear brief closing remarks before we begin networking with each other and relax at the end of Rotary Peace Corps Week. So more to come, definitely more to come. And thank you again for attending today. That's all I have, Kim.
Thank you, Erica, and thank you for your leadership on this, and Karen as well. You've both been just fabulous. Karen has recorded this, so we will be. Karen, where's it going to be? Yeah.
I'm here. So this will be available next week on our YouTube channel. It will also be sent out in our upcoming newsletter if you're not receiving Partnering for Peace emails, which are usually one a month. This week there will be a few more, but please sign up for our newsletter list and become a member of Partnering for Peace as well. It is free, but just having the people involved shows interest and in the initiative. So you can sign up on the email, the link I just posted in the chat, and you'll see our newsletter come out via email at the end of this month, as well as on social media.
Great, thank you. And then just in closing, again, I'd like to thank Chick, thank Peter, thank Keevon, Ana, everyone. Thank you for taking time away from the Queen. And we really appreciate the meaningful thoughts and comments, and really are honored to hear of all your experience and dedication to peace and to the respective organizations. So thank you all. We are looking for active volunteers and active board members for Partnering for Peace. So please reach out to us at info@partneringforpeace.org and let us know of your interest. And also, as Karen said, sign up for Partnering for Peace. It's free, unless you'd like to make a small donation to help pay for our Zoom calls. With that, any other closing remarks? No. All right. Thank you all. Have a peaceful day, and we'll see you soon, hopefully on Wednesday. And please participate tomorrow too. Thank you all.
Good job, Kim. Good job.